Welcome back to Morning Joe. Joining us now from Capitol Hill, member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Democratic Whip Dick Durbin of Illinois. Senator, always good to see you, sir.
How you doing, Willie Geist of Evanston, Illinois?
Yeah, that's correct. Wow. Good staff work right there. Evanston Hospital, Dr. Lapata delivered me, but we don't need to get any more details on that. I went deep for you. Let me ask you first about this special election in Georgia today. We've been talking about the significance of it, what it will mean if Ossoff wins, the Democrat. Do you think it's as important as some people are saying it is?
Well, it would be historic. I mean, for almost 40 years, the Republicans have held this seat. Tom Price won by 23 points. You have to say it's a strong Republican district, but we sure have a powerful candidate, and we've never seen money spent like this in any congressional race.
What will it say if Ossoff loses, given all the money he's taken in from outside, from around the country, money he's raised? If he can't win this race, what will it tell you?
Well, it's an uphill battle. As I said, the district is certainly not a Democratic district by measure of the last 40 years. But we have a great candidate. He's focused on local issues. He almost won it in the first round, and we're hoping he can pull it off in this important election today.
Good morning, Senator Steve Ratner. We've been showing some very eloquent clips by people like Cory Booker and Chuck Schumer and so on about the health care bill, and obviously a lot of things going on in secret that people don't like and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, what can the Democrats really do to affect the outcome of this bill? The Republicans are obviously trying to pass it through reconciliation without a single Democratic vote. So for all of the eloquent speeches and points being made about secrecy, what can you guys actually do to either prevent this from being repealed and replaced or to change the nature of the final bill?
Steve, the magic number's three. 3 Republican senators can stop what looks like an effort to push through and steamroll a bill that could change health care all across America, a bill that literally has not been read or seen by the members of the United States Senate. If 3 Republican senators stand up and say this is the wrong way to pass legislation, it should be done on a more open basis, as we did with the passage of the Affordable Care Act, then we can stop it.
So your goal basically is to convince 3 of these Republicans to drop off. So who are your most likely candidates for that?
Well, it turns out that, you know, the early bidding had some names that have now been enhanced by statements over the weekend. Marco Rubio, Ron Johnson, 2 senators who really were outspoken about this secret process that the Republican leadership is pushing for.
They were talking mostly about process, I think. In terms of the substance of it, who do you think you have most likely to get off this bill?
I can't answer that because no one on the Democratic side knows anything about the substance of this bill. All we know is that it's being pushed through without hearing, without even being read, without being scored. At the very last minute, it's a take it or leave it on a process called reconciliation.
John Hellman.
Senator, you're a member of the Judiciary Committee and a close watcher of this Trump investigation on Russia and related matters. Last week, we ended the week with the possibility or the suggestion or rumors flying around about the possibility the president might fire both Rod Rosenstein and as a way to firing the special prosecutor, Bob Mueller. If that were to happen, what would then happen?
We would be knocking on the door of a constitutional crisis, period. The notion that we could have another Saturday night massacre as we did under President Nixon and have business as usual afterwards is unacceptable. At that point, we have to stand for a principle. The principle is this: no person in the United States, including the president, is above the law. This president and his administration have to be held accountable as every president would be.
Senator, just to follow up on that, I know most Democrats agree with everything you just said, but as a practical matter, wouldn't it take a whole bunch of Republicans to agree with you for anything of actual practical consequence to flow from that?
Yes, it would. And I'm hoping at that point, I hope it never reaches that point, but if it does, I'm hoping a number of Republicans will remember the verdict to history. Back in the Nixon era, there were a handful of extraordinary people on the Republican side who stood up and finally said to President Nixon, enough is enough. We are hoping there'll be that kind of leadership if this situation emerges on the Republican side today.
Senator, let me ask you, it's Nicole Wallace. I don't know how far-fetched it is that this president, it's been widely reported that he's dissatisfied with his attorney general for recusing himself in the first place, and that he's fixated and obsessed on personnel at DOJ. So I think to talk about a constitutional crisis without having, I'm not aware of any Republicans who are coming around to what you're describing. Are you having private conversations with Republicans who have suggested to you that should he fire Sessions and Rosenstein, they would be with you in describing this as a constitutional crisis?
a lot of my Republican senators start looking at their shoes when they talk about this White House and this president.
Do they say anything, or do they just look at their
Yes.
shoes? I mean, none of them have said anything publicly about. I think it's very destabilizing to talk about a constitutional crisis if you haven't laid the groundwork with your Republican colleagues who are still, at least publicly, suggesting that the investigation, may or may not reveal anything.
Listen, we laid the groundwork when we took an oath of office to uphold this Constitution. And as far as I'm concerned, many of these Republicans realize that what the president has done, what he said, the things that have transpired are really troublesome. If it reaches the point, will they step out? I can't answer that. Many of them are still fearful of the Republican base back home that seems to be standing by this president, hell or high water.
Right, but Senator Cathy Cahey, you must be having private conversations with your Republican colleagues that would give you some indication of what it would take for them to step up and do something against the president. If it's not Rosenstein, would it be firing Mueller, for example? I mean, they must have run this scenario by you.
Well, no, we haven't gone into detail. What we talked about is the approach of this president and how divisive it's been. Take a look at the record on Capitol Hill of what we have achieved or failed to achieve in the last 5 or 6 months. Take a look at this health care bill and the fact that it's not gone through hearing and committee, the ordinary process we followed with the Affordable Care Act. Listen, we are frozen in place here because of the situation between the White House and Capitol Hill. The Republicans know that. They're in the majority.
All right, Senator Dick Durbin of East St. Louis, Illinois. Senator, good to see you, sir. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot, Wally.
All right.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.